Honestly, what's happening is that centrism typically refers to itself as the rational middle. Right. Really, it's a fringe movement trying to defend the economic preferences of the 1%.
Waleed Shahid, who is the communications director for Justice Democrats, was on MSNBC talking about how centrism is bullshit. Now, this is the kind of conversation you wouldn't have seen on MSNBC even just a year ago. Watch.
Howard Schultz and Michael Bloomberg and others, when they refer to the wealth tax or when they talked about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's 70% marginal tax rate, it's like they don't even know how to argue against it because their view is that it's self-evidently preposterous. But they clearly think it's good politics for them. Are they wrong, Waleed?
I mean, it's great for the progressive movement, the populist movement in the Democratic Party to have people like Schultz and Bloomberg be the face of the anti-wealth tax campaign.
Yes, I think you're right about that.
But I mean, honestly, what's happening is that centrism typically refers to itself as the rational middle. Right. Really, it's a fringe movement trying to defend the economic preferences of the 1%. But right now, what we're seeing is that these corporate-friendly centrist politicians are incredibly out of touch with the Democratic Party electorate.
You see people on the left particularly talk about, you know, Medicare for all polls so well, or a wealth tax polls so well, which is true. But that's also in like the untested chamber of combat, right? Like those ideas are going to get flexed and they're going to get frisked and they're going to get worked over. And it's possible that they're not as popular after they have to be fought over as they are when they're abstractions.
I mean, look, right now in the polling, they are very popular, but
there was a time when repealing Obamacare was very popular. I want to be clear.
There's also been a time where Medicare was attacked by Ronald Reagan, yes, Barry Goldwater, and George H.W. Bush as being Soviet-style socialized medicine as socialism. There was a time when the Affordable Care Act was also attacked for being Soviet-style socialized medicine. We'll see the exact same attacks this time around. We're already seeing them, and I think we've overcome those challenges.
Although this is a little more fraught, right? Because when people actually are looking at kind of changes in their own lives, I mean, most people, I think it's safe to say people hate their health insurance, but are still kind of panicked at the idea of going on to not just a system for other people, but a new system for themselves.
Well, go ahead.
But the thing is that people hate their insurance company and they like their doctor. Well, that's the issue. But the reason it's really good for Kamala Harris to actually defend her policy position is to explain to the American people, not just a hashtag, but what the policy actually is.
That's a big thing too. You don't see the defensive crouch. That's what's so interesting. I mean, Kamala Harris is someone who came up through these very fraught kind of like triangulating politics, particularly on things like crime and other stuff. She was not crouching in that response, that is a real sign to me.
Now, just a quick note before I go on to discuss the rest of the video. While they were literally discussing how Kamala Harris did not become defensive when she was questioned on her Medicare for All stance, while that was happening, the story came out where Kamala Harris is now open to multiple paths to Medicare for All. So she did cave on the idea that we should get rid of all private insurance. So unfortunately, Kamala Harris is showing herself to be somebody who is willing to bow to corporate pressure. But I think we have less to worry about with some other candidates who have already faced this kind of backlash, like Bernie Sanders. But let's talk about the rest of this video, though. So this is the kind of, I mean, a year ago, 6 months ago, was there a serious discussion on any major cable network about how centrism is complete bullshit? How centrism is simply just the 1% trying to protect their wealth? That's what it is. Centrism only exists on these networks. They only exist with the millionaire cable news hosts and the other millionaires that come and join them on their shows. That's the only place this exists. Actual centrism, or if you want to say moderate policy, actual moderate policy is what the majority of Americans agree with. So an actual moderate policy is Medicare for all, because the vast majority of Americans want Medicare for all. Another moderate policy is to get money out of politics, because the vast majority of Americans agree with getting money out of politics. I mean, we can go down the list. Another moderate policy is raising taxes on the wealthiest and large corporations. So these are all policies that the vast majority of Americans agree with. Yet centrism, the way Howard Schultz, the billionaire Starbucks guy, is trying to sell it, is, there's the very far left Democratic Party, the very far right Republicans, and then there's all these people in the middle who are independents, and they'll vote for me. Even though, like, the idea, first of all, that every independent has the same position on policy is ridiculous, but then extend that to thinking that every independent wants to protect the wealthiest people. Howard Schultz is so dumb. And I don't want to go down that path again because I'll just talk endlessly for 20 minutes. But it's just a complete, it's an idea with any actual substance or data to it at all. So most independents are people who feel disenfranchised from either party. A lot of them are progressives who feel like the Democratic Party doesn't represent them because the Democratic Party, much like Republicans, represents their donors. So you have a lot of people who self-identify as independents who want Medicare for all, who want to get money out of politics, who want free college, who want to raise taxes on the wealthiest and multinational corporations. So that's what a lot of independents actually are. Now, so this is, oh yeah, I guess the whole point of this video, this shows you how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders have changed the conversation. So the reason why this is a conversation piece now is because you have people like AOC in Congress. And because of that, you have the communications director from Justice Democrats that AOC is a part of on MSNBC discussing actual policy. So these ideas are taking hold, not just, you know, with the public out in, you know, in YouTube spaces, but also is now being adopted by the mainstream press. The mainstream press is actually paying attention to these progressive policies, to these socialist policies, because you have people like AOC and Bernie Sanders as incredibly popular politicians.